gang, Lil Pond. Ooh, yeah. Craig has him.
All right, we're good. We're going in there. All right. Official hello, everybody. What's up? How's it going? It's nice to see you all. All right, forget about the past 5 minutes. That was just some weird stuff. All right.
That was our warm-up in disguise. You know how every stream has the beginning thing where you're just sitting there? We like to make it a little more entertaining. So,
All right, how y'all doing today? Yes, I am in my new computer officially. Finally, we're kicking and going. Let me just take
Thank
off my
God.
laptop. So we have a treat for you guys today. We have our first guest appearance for today.
Bum.
Dickhiskhan. Now, I'm sure most of you guys know who Dickhiskhan is. He's
beautiful man.
He's a beautiful man. He is a top Banjo-Kazooie runner, 100% mostly. And he also does Banjo-Tooie. I think he's dabbling on Donkey Kong 64.
Dabbles with the donkey.
God, please go. I'm sorry, Dick, if I was wrong. But I'm sure like all you guys have been dabbling in Donkey Kong 64 stuff. All right. Yeah, and he's going to be our guest today. And we're going to be mostly talking about getting into speedrunning. That's our main topic for today.
That's right.
Let's simply elaborate on that for you guys.
Yeah, so today we're going to start with a topic and just kind of see where it goes. The main focus, I'd say, is getting into speedrunning. There's always a lot of questions when people are on the fence of getting started. You know, it's kind of confusing, like, what should I do first? Should I practice more, do runs, resetting, and that kind of thing? But also talking about finding a personal value in it. Because when you're starting out, you're so far from world record that as cool as getting a world record would be, it's hard for that to fuel your motivation. But anywho, we'll be talking about this more. Drumroll, please. Dickhiskhan, Banjo-Kazooie legend.
All right. I would have loved to officially welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Dickhiskhan. What's up, baby?
You're still muted on Discord, but hey.
What's up, baby?
I was indeed still muted on Discord. Thank you for having me.
Dickhiskhan messing up the only thing he had. Just kidding.
The one thing.
The one thing he had to do right. Couldn't get it right. That's okay, though. We all make mistakes. We were only 20 minutes late. Not too bad. We're making progress.
How y'all doing? Okay. All right. So let's get into it. What do we wanna start off with? What do you guys have in your mind? Oh, we got our first sub. No, not first sub. Resub from Dickhiskhan. Dickhiskhan himself.
22 months in a row. The loyalty.
Hell yeah.
Giving us
2
a
months
dance.
away.
Welcome back to the fridge, Dickhiskhan. I love you, babe. Now, the alert did not show up on my stream, which I'm kind of confused about because when I tested it earlier, it was working perfectly fine. So whatever. At least the sound is there.
We just need the sound. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
All right, so when to send bits, that's also not working, Rip. All right, well, thanks for 100 tips. Dirtness. All right, so let's get into it. What ideas do you guys have in mind? How do you guys want to start this off?
Well, right now I have an idea in my head. I'm wondering about that shirt that Dickhiskhan is wearing right now. That's a nice looking shirt. What does that say on it, my man? You got a nice tie on.
Yeah, let me just get the tie out of the way. This is the Blazing Wing Challenge from Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah.
I knew that looked familiar.
It happens to be from the the Buffalo Wild Wings in Herndon, Virginia, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So when did you did that challenge? Did you do it on your own?
Yeah, it was. I actually happened to do this challenge as a race, a speed run race versus Simply.
Oh yes, okay, that's right. I don't have my shirt though, unfortunately. I forgot. I was home this weekend and I saw that shirt and I was like, oh man, that's great. And then I thought of you, and it put a big smile on my face. But unfortunately, I forgot to bring the shirt back up. So got rocking the sweatshirt, but
I figured
the blazing.
I would wear it, in honor of the occasion, being on the Two Dads podcast.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a pretty big deal, and that shirt is definitely a big deal. It's a big reward. But if I remember right, I think you only ate 11 wings, and you're supposed to eat 12. So could you elaborate a little bit on what?
Well, let me tell you, that's not my fault. First of all, my wings, and I think I ate more meat than you did, anyways, because the wings that I had were like huge, and yeah, basically the waitress brought out 12 wings for Simply and 10 wings for me. I mean, I still did it in like 2 minutes out of the 6 minutes we
Yeah, he
had. But
definitely could have
That's
done like
crazy,
20
dude.
wings, and I died doing 12. Like I definitely didn't eat how much I should have. I like barely took a bite out of a wing. I was like, "Is this good?" And then, well, actually, they weren't even checking.
yeah,
But
I thought
you could have just
Simply
thrown one under the table.
was a master at that too. When I saw Dick do it, I was like, this is no way.
yeah,
There's
Dick
no way.
destroyed it.
And I happened to be next to you guys too when you were doing it, so that was a pretty good experience.
Is that highlighted on your channel, Dick?
I think it might be. If it's not highlighted, I'll highlight it. But it's definitely still on the past broadcast. Yeah, we streamed
Nice.
the whole thing, the Wing Ching.
Dude, I had a lot of fun. That was a good time. I wouldn't do it again though. I don't think. Not right now. I'd have to wait.
Yeah, you've only done it like what? How many times have you done it in total?
I've done it twice, but I've eaten a lot of blazing wings, and they're not good for your system. The next day, or that night, coming out the other end, it gets a little hot.
Yeah,
The
I've
rude
been
awakening at like 5 in the morning.
rude awakening. Yeah, I've been there for that many times. When he ate blazing wings. Okay. All right, boys. Getting into speedrunning.
Good topic there.
Yeah. That was our introduction of Dick talking about blazing wings.
Thank you for the 100 biddies.
The 100 tits from
TV
Riston, I guess.
Definitely was hoping for some text to speech on that one, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into speedrunning, boys. Well, should we first? What?
I just love you so much.
All right. So, should we talk about first, like the physical aspects of actually playing the games of getting into speedrunning, like what is needed to start speedrunning? And it totally depends on what games you do, really. What do you need in terms of equipment, and why you make the decision in the first place to start speedrunning. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys do. You get questions all the time in chat about getting into speedrunning. People think that they don't know how to get into it, and they feel like they can't. They always say, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I feel like I can't get it." I mean, I even had thought myself before I started speedrunning, like, can I even be good? Is it even worth it? Like.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, what are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I guess I could just share like how I got into speedrunning personally, and then talk about how other people could do the same.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that story. Hit us with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just finishing up high school actually, so just finished grade 12, and it was like the summer in between, and my brother was visiting. He lives in Japan, but he came to visit, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta check out speedrunning. You'll love it, especially Banjo-Kazooie." He knew Banjo-Kazooie was my favorite video game, so he was like, the Banjo-Kazooie runs are like so impressive and so fun to watch, and I was like, I can't wait to see that. So he showed me speedrunslive.com. And on speedrunslive.com, if you don't know what that is, if you're watching just on Twitch because you follow Cheese or whatever, there's a website actually dedicated to housing like all the different speedrunners, and it's just you can scroll through the front page and look for whatever game you want. And so I was on there, and I would just go on there and look for Banjo-Kazooie speedruns. I actually ran across a streamer called Mr. Weebles, who doesn't speedrun Banjo-Kazooie anymore, but he was the first runner I watched, and he was really good commentary, really entertaining, and it blew my mind to see a Banjo-Kazooie speedrun, because that's one of the games for me. I grew up just playing it. Like every year I'd want to play it again and beat it again, and it was one of those games. Like Mario 64 is another one that I just like to play, even though through my adulthood from my childhood. And so at that, I watched speedrunning, specifically Banjo-Kazooie, for like a year before I even considered running it myself. And I just I decided to run it on emulator first because I didn't have a capture card.
Dip your feet in the water.
Huh?
Dip your feet in.
Yeah. And like just get the hang of the run. Luckily, Banjo-Kazooie wasn't too different on emulator. However, it is much slower because the loading zones are slower. But I didn't really care. I just wanted to try to do the tricks and get some runs in. And then over time, I never thought it would develop into actually becoming one of the top runners eventually. But it was just like I wanted to get better. I wanted to get improve my time, and it just happened where I like started doing it a lot more, taking it a lot more seriously, because for me personally, I wanted to keep beating myself. That was my main motivation, was to keep getting better times. It was always fun. So,
Mhm.
and it was a way to keep the game alive for me.
So have you ever had moments where you were hitting a wall? I think when we had our last podcast, you mentioned that kind of thing had happened before.
It was interesting. Your last podcast, like the overarching topic was about plateauing. And I
Mhm.
thought that was really interesting, because with Banjo Kazooie, I've had times where I couldn't PB for a really, really long time. And it was
Mhm.
really brutal. Like, you hate to see like 4 or 5 months go by without getting a PB.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous. And like, I never felt of it as a plateau personally, because I guess with someone like Stivity Bobo in front of you, you always know there's always ways that you can go faster and always ways that you can improve. I've never had a PB that I thought I couldn't beat, so that
Mhm.
I think that was a bit of a different. I had a bit of a different way
Approach.
looking into that. Yeah, a bit of a
Yeah, I
different
think
approach.
you said that you were looking at Stiv, like if he can do it that fast, then I could definitely find a way to beat my time.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, closing the gap on Stiv has been really, really fun throughout the years. And the competition, but like from the other runners has been really good. Like, Stiv kind of has this bigger lead, like three over 3 minutes ahead of second place, who is me, and then like
Yeah.
from second to seventh is like all within like the same minute pretty much, or like the same couple minutes.
That
Yeah.
that really baffles me. Like the idea attacking toucans with 500 bits. Thank you for the love, babe. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Attacking Toucans, for the 500 bits.
So that baffles me. The idea of like, okay, and I've heard you guys say it, you Hag, King KC even, that I've heard them on more one occasion mention the fact like summer best, for example, like you guys can improve your summer best much more. Like summer best is pretty optimized, but then I see Steve, and then it's like a huge gap. So I'm like, so why did these guys say this? When Stiv obviously can have a summer best and a PB way better. So that obviously means that you guys can improve a lot more too. But it feels like I felt like you guys thought that, oh, you can't really improve anymore. And I thought that was kind of a bad mindset. But after seeing you, especially you play recently and getting all these PBs and getting a 205, I thought, okay, now Dick knows what he's doing. He's on a good track. And what you just said kind of just cleared that up. So you know what's going on. You know that you can improve. You know there's always room for
Yeah,
improvement.
it's like there's always this, like, obviously nobody's like a special god or anything. Like, some people put more time and more effort and more work into things.
Mhm.
It just like there's just this aspect of like Stiv has something above everybody else, that like, he's very, very good. Like, no matter how much time and effort and work you put into it, it's like I'm not saying it's like it's a very, very, very crazy thing to imagine, like, getting to Stiv's level from where I'm at already. I know I can get kind of close. Like, my sum of best is right around getting into the 202 range, but
Mhm.
Stiv's like caking 201s now, like, all the time. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's like,
yeah,
it's
it's.
insane.
I mean, me and Simply went through the same process, I guess, when we were getting better. And then Punky always had the 142. He was always in like mid 142, and we were always in the 146, 145 range. And I guess it's kind of relatable to you guys. But I don't think me and Simply ever thought that we couldn't like keep getting better. We always thought that we could keep getting PBs and keep improving. And then we did, especially when Simply got the big huge PB, the 143.10. We were all like, okay, this is some serious stuff.
Yeah. That was a big boy.
Yeah.
But like, if we got off a little bit, if you want to get back to like getting into speedrunning,
Right.
like, I think it's important at some point, if you want to get serious and compete, to get away from emulators. But starting on emulators, I don't see much of a problem with, just to dip your feet in and get used to the tricks. And when you can afford it, getting a capture card. If you want to get one for retro games, they're not really too expensive. The Dazzle is one that people go to. If you have a little bit more money, a lot of people like the GV USB2.
Which is only
Those
about
are
$50 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. About MU, Yeah, agreed. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day console you start playing on. Um,
It's a little different.
it
It's
is, but
but not like that big of a deal.
a lot of people in the
And
community,
it varies from game to game.
yeah, a lot of people
For
in.
instance, like we don't ban Banjo Kazooie runs on emulator because emulator happens to be slower. Like, so it
Oh,
doesn't
really?
matter. Yeah, it's for every loading zone is an extra 4 seconds.
Oh
So
my
the lag
god.
reduction doesn't save any time because of the loading. Like, I think on speedrun.com, speedruns live, all Project 64 2 point something are banned because of lag reduction things and differences, but specifically Banjo Kazooie emulator runs aren't currently banned because they're slower than console.
Yeah,
Right.
and I started on emulator too for Mario 64. Like, it's really good because I mean, I had an Xbox controller laying around. Like, what controller did you use when you started on emulator?
Pardon?
What controller did you use when you started on emulator?
PlayStation 3.
DualShock.
Oh
Right.
god, yeah. Oh god, nightmares.
I started on Xbox. Okay, so I actually started playing on ME first. I think it was like a few days before I actually started playing on VC. But I played on ME for like a few days on Xbox controller, Xbox 360. And I was just playing the game like casually after watching Puncation stream a lot and whatever. And then when I played on VC, I thought VC was actually more of like a accepted console. Because I don't know why. So I thought that no, I should start on VC and not MU. But I started on VC with the GameCube controller, and I played on GameCube for like 5 months, and then moved to VC for a bit after, and then finally on 64. But yeah, like what were you saying before? Starting on VC or VC or a VC or MU or whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. It's all about getting into the game and starting to get a feel of the game itself and speedrunning. The community a lot makes jokes about different consoles on MU all the time, and I feel like
It's like this ongoing kind of, especially like I would say arguments between like all this kind of stuff
Yeah.
and a lot of the
within the community.
a
It's
lot
like
of
never ending.
yeah a lot of the viewer community, like newer viewers who want to get into speedrunning, see these messages and will ask questions, and then people in the community troll by saying stupid comments like, oh, MU sucks or whatever. So they get this idea like, oh no, I don't know what to do now because I don't have an 64, so now I can't start speedrunning. It actually, I think, discourages people to start getting into it. If people in the community would come more together and be like, no, it doesn't matter what console you do, it's okay, and be more encouraging, I think we will see a lot more people getting into speedrunning in general.
Yeah, I do think that runners should be encouraged once they get to a certain level by other runners of the same game. Like, hey, you should really move on to console. You're getting really good times now. Like, it's the time you need to start. You need to get used to it, and you'll get even better. Like, you'll be taken more seriously.
Yeah,
And I think that that's okay, but don't rag on someone because they're running on emulator
right.
and they're starting.
And that's almost unavoidable, I think. But I mean,
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't that
True.
much
But
of a.
we encourage if you want to get into speedrunning, we all three of us want more people to get into speedrunning.
Of course, yeah.
Definitely.
All right, so
It's
there's
all
the.
about the new generation, dude. As long as you have the generations keep going, then you'll flourish. But if there's like periods where it's getting drier, then
Right.
rip.
Okay, so that's more like the physical aspect of getting to speedrun. How about like the mentality part, the mental aspect in terms of like starting to practice and finding ways to get into the game, finding resources and videos and tutorials and stuff, because that's always a huge topic that I have in my stream. People always ask me questions like that. What do you guys think about that?
Well, well, one of the big mentalities that I think people should is like a bad mentality is that people just want to get into speedrunning to get world records, and that's the only thing that would matter is to speedrun to get a world record. But if you see speedrun.com, there's massive leaderboards of tons of people, and there's can be many different reasons to want to get into speedrunning and different value you can get from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, like For me personally, I if I were to rate the reasons I speedrun and the reasons I want to keep speedrunning from like the most important to the least important, I mean, number one would be that for personal, like I want to beat my own time. That's always been my number one reason to speedrun. So I never even thought about like beating world record or being a top speedrunner when I started speedrunning the game, even a little bit. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really nice mindset to get into. Do it for fun, and you'll have a lot of fun beating your own time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the second most valued thing for me is competition with other players. And I think there's a lot of great competition all throughout the leaderboards on different games. And competition doesn't mean like people always say like, oh, competitive game, by the way, oh, the world record's impossible, no one's ever gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but if the competition I have with Haginator is a really good example of like an extremely good competition with like a lot of fun. Anyone who follows the Banjo Kazooie scene and who's watched me and Haginator know that we're just constantly back and forth on who's ahead of who on the leaderboard, right under like underneath Stiv, but like second and third place, just back and forth constantly. And Hag yesterday was literally one frame from taking second place from me.
No way, you got a PB?
He died on the last frame of the video game.
What? No
Okay,
way!
so dude,
Oh my
pause that now.
God.
We should play the clip. It's fucking hilarious. Okay,
I'll play the clip, yeah.
Okay, just go to Haginator's stream, look up clips in the last 24 hours, and the best one's called Chokinator. But so he goes to do the Ginginator, and his time's ticking down. My PB is 2:05:51, and he's like shooting. So the end of Banjo Kazooie speedrunning, the time you when you split
I found it.
is when you shoot a whole bunch of eggs into the statue, and you split once you shoot the last egg, and that's when you finish the final boss. That's when you beat her. So he's like shooting the eggs in, and he has to shoot in the last egg, and he goes to shoot it, and the animation goes off, and then he gets hit by a fireball and dies. And it's like he would have been second place if that egg went in. So it just goes to show, and there's been runs all week last week. It's been really crazy in the Banjo Kazooie community. Healtho's got a new PB.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
Yeah, like 3 days ago. He got a 2:06, which is I have a 2:05. He has a 2:06.
Who got a 206?
He's less than a minute. He's less than a minute away from me now. His name's Helfos.
Helfos. I know that name.
JC Tomo has a 2:06:11. I have a 2:05:51. Hag now has a 2:06:14.
Alright, I'm not really
That's all within
sure.
30 seconds, and that's 3 people.
I'm not really sure how to put in when I use window catcher. It's just a black screen, like what was happening before Sim.
Oh no!
Yeah, you don't have to show it. You get the picture, right? Like just the whole thing. The whole thing about I find a lot of value in competition with other runners. Some people might not at all find any value in competition with other runners and only care about the personal aspect. I definitely care more about that. But that's two like big motivations. I'd say my third biggest motivation for speedrunning is I'm to stream. It's my job, and it's something I can always do. Like for work is to speedrun a stream. That's a really big motivation for me, which somebody could find that as well.
Yeah.
So you've been streaming since what was the time?
I started streaming like I guess 2013, like a year after I was watching speedruns. I actually didn't even know what Twitch was for like that whole year, just speedrunslive.com. But yeah, I started streaming like 2013, and it was Banjo Kazooie speedruns that I started with. I didn't always do them, and I hadn't taken it seriously for the longest time, but yeah, a long time I've been streaming.
Dude, I think competition is such a good point on motivation. Like anytime you complete a run, like especially when you're starting out, when you complete a run, you're like, it's obvious you can improve it, right? Because when you're starting out, you're just making tons of mistakes. You're dying in every level. You're like, okay, yeah, I could die maybe one less time out of like 50, and then you'd still save time. But with the competition, like me and Cheese had that same kind of thing that you and Hag, which has been so much fun to watch. Like I've never been a part of the Banjo Kazooie community or like watched it much until I met you last SGDQ, and then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And I looked into Hag, and then you guys have just been having this competition. Do you see it going all the way? You see your guys like, is your motivation still really high? Is his motivation? guys talk
Oh
often?
yeah. I mean, Hag literally streamed for 15 hours yesterday.
Oh my.
Only Banjo-Kazooie speedruns, and his only motive. The Hag is the example of someone whose only motivation is the competition. That's all he cares about. He wants to beat me so bad, and we're friends. It's banter whenever we smack talk each other, but it's like he literally streamed for 15 hours. He got a PB yesterday. After that run, he choked. Okay, so he had like 4 runs exactly the same going into the end game, and he lost them all except for one. He actually did PB, and he got a 206.14 from a 206.28, and like he streamed for 15 hours just speedrunning Banjo-Kazooie 100%.
Yeah,
Dude.
it's
And
dude,
it was only, and he got his his PB, his 206.14, and he was like, what a waste of time. He was so unhappy. He didn't give
Hag.
one crap about PBing.
He's been streaming so much lately, and that's one of the things I love about Hag. Hag is by far one of the most dedicated speedrunners I've seen in the past year or so, and it's really inspiring. People should watch Hag if they want to get into speedrunning, because that guy's a legend. I really loved how he broke out into like your top 3 favorite kind of parts about getting into speedrunning. That was really
There's everyone finds different reasons to want to
Yeah.
do it, and different value in different things, which is why so many arguments break out, like about things like leaderboards and whether some people get heated competition and stuff like that. And
I really agree with the point that you made, especially on trying to beat your own PB. Like, which is the first point you made. So basically, competing against yourself always gives you more and more motivation. That's what I did pretty much. And then when I met Simply, the second point you raised is the one that was my main focus, where it was the direct competition between me and Simply, which is basically what happens between you and Hag. And that pushed both of us a lot to keep going and keep getting PBs.
Competition, like, it's a lot of fun to play the game on your own, but socializing in general, like, once you're a part of the community, it's a lot more fun. Like, you look even more forward to, you start your stream, you see these names, you get to know people. But when we were competing like that, back we both had like 148s. I feel like that's when I improved my fastest. Like, that's when I cared the most about the game. I was like, every day we'd talk. Like, do you and Hag talk together while practicing the game? Over Discord or
all
something?
the time, actually. Yeah, when
Yeah.
like, especially when like recently in Banjo-Kazooie, there's been a bunch of new strategies found and time saves and route changes. Like, just out of the blue, there's been a lot. And so, like, when learning and getting used to doing these new strategies, because we have to keep up with the current fastest route, it's like we'll be in calls like, how do you do this part? How do you do this part? You need to teach me this. I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, you get this every run. I'm messing this up. Like, so back and forth, a lot of that for hours. We'll do that kind of thing, and we'll time things. Me and Stiv as well. Yeah, talking while practicing.
So, like, in your head right now, are you doing everything that you can be doing in Banjo? Like, strat wise, is there still a lot left?
I think mostly strat wise, yes. But if I want to get, I have these goals, and when I hit these goals, every now and then I will. Oh, 1 second. 1 second here.
Just having a moment here.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right.
special guest appearance. Nobody was ready for it.
Is that the grandma? Is that the grandma?
Casual delusional grandma moment.
Delusional grandma? What did she tell you?
It's like, you've got some mail. Like, oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got mail.
What was that saying? Holy smokes.
Talking about updating strats. Like, you hit certain goals and then grandma.
Right, yeah.
Kind of.
Every time I watch Stiv stream, or like there was a point where I would notice something he did that I would save time. Like, just from watching him, I'd be like, oh, now I'm gonna do that. And there is definitely a certain extent of, I have no idea why he's so much faster than me. But like, if I were like, I'm gonna get to this point where I get a 204, which is probably gonna happen extremely soon, because all last week I had many runs that were very, very, very close, which Cheese was probably watching some of those. But when that happens, I'm gonna really study the world record, and that's kind of gonna be fun to do. I think that would be fun to do for anyone who wants to try to be competitive in speedrunning and get to be a top runner, like top 10, whatever.
Yeah.
You study and you say,
Right.
wow, I lost 10 seconds in this 5-minute section.
Mhm.
Where were they? And try to figure it out.
Right. That's exactly what I do. That's a really good point. I basically just used to watch Punkay play or whoever and literally just see exactly what they do. And I'd be like, whoa, that looks faster, so let's do that. Especially with OOT recently, I use that a lot. Watching ZFG and all these good runners. I just see how he does a trick faster, and then I would just follow exactly what he does. And then when you follow them input by input, then those inputs then become muscle memory. So then it becomes part of your natural gameplay, and that's how you get better progressively, but in a quick pace.
Yeah, I think watching videos, like whenever somebody asks me, they're like, how can I get better? Or I feel like I'm hitting a wall or I'm not sure what to do now. If you just take your video and compare it with like world record, like side by side, especially helps a
Frame
lot.
by frame is good.
Yeah, dude, get the frames, get in there with whatever tool you need, slow it down. But like, I think there's also an aspect to speedrunning where it's learning how to watch because like when you're starting out, you're not sure why something's faster or like how you can tell what they're doing different that makes it faster. And that's part of like game knowledge. Do you think
Yeah.
that that's something you kind of develop? Like when I started, I watched Siglemic and he had a 144 and I'm watching that. It's like perfect. But you know, now after playing the game, you see all the little things that kind of add up.
Yeah, I think I think you're right about that. I think a lot of it is if you're thinking about wanting to get better and you're like, I practice this over and over and over. I practice it like 30 times and I can never get it. Well, you know, you got to have good quality practice where you're actively thinking like, why am I not getting it? Instead of just like ramming your head into the wall over and over.
Yeah. And I think that's what people think sometimes. Like, and that's what it definitely looks like when you're practicing a speed run. It looks like you're just kind of ramming your head at it.
Mm-hmm.
But each mistake, you can take something out of that, and you can make the process of learning it much quicker and much more efficient.
I just thought of something super important too for getting into speedrunning. Finish your runs. You see, like you'll be watching your top runner. Like you're gonna get into speedrunning because oh man, you're watching the world record holder on Twitch live for 6 hours. And
He's
guess
the
what
best.
he did? He resetted for 6 hours. And you're gonna be like, nice, okay, I want to get into speedrunning. And you're gonna make mistakes on your first run. And I see people reset, and I'm like, finish your first run, finish your second run, 1,000,000% finish your second run. The second run's the best run ever. Like I when I learn a new speed game, you definitely have to finish your first run. You definitely have to finish your second run. Then you could think about resetting maybe one time, going for your third run, but like just finish a lot of runs.
Totally agree.
You'll have way more fun.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so
Always
true.
PB.
I see Pedicris, who recently started playing Mario 64. He finishes every run he does. Like 90% of the runs he does, he finishes them. And that's I totally agree. It helps so much. And even when I finish runs, when you're a top player and you finish runs, you feel every run you finish, it's a different experience in some way, and you always feel good about it. You always feel like it felt good, you know, going through the whole game. You feel like you somehow always learn something.
Yeah. Sometimes as top runners, we have to like take a step back and learn and be like, sometimes we'll reset. You know, it's understandable to reset extremely early on for a stupid time loss, but sometimes we'll reset like halfway through when our best possible time is still a PB, and we could have been gods for the rest of that run,
Right.
and not made any more mistakes.
Exactly.
So like, don't reset when you still have a best possible time that can PB, and that kind of thing is.
It's hard.
Having a quick, like, it took me years to get over like having an itchy reset finger, but like it's really good to get over that because of all the top Banjo-Kazooie runners, I don't think I particularly I don't think I'm much faster than people. Like honestly, I can name like 4 runners I think are probably better at the game, but I am good at the end game when I get to it because I finish lots of runs that can't PB, and you need to do these things in runs.
I heard that from I think it was Hag himself who said that Dickhiskhan, that you have like the most consistency in mid to late game, which is, I mean, you're kind of looking for that at the end of the day. You're looking for the consistency if you want to be competitive and be good. In terms of like getting good PBs, it's all about, not all about, but the consistency factor is like probably the most important factor. So once you have
At the end of the
that,
day.
yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, I think there's also, which I guess people don't realize as much, or I don't know if you see it very, but you practice like, okay, in Banjo Kazooie now with EverDrive. Actually, with Game Shark, can you practice well too, or do you need EverDrive?
Game Shark is okay, but EverDrive is a big difference. With EverDrive, Game Shark, you can reset the levels so that the jiggies come back, so you can practice
Oh,
jiggies, which is super important, and like mumbo
mhm.
tokens as well. But EverDrive, Mittens, I gotta give a big shout out to Mittens Hug. It was recently, I think it was like a few months
Mittens.
ago. He made a practice ROM that you can play on EverDrive, and it's like exactly as if you're playing the real game, and you can like loop. It's impossible to get save states on Banjo Kazooie EverDrive the way Mario 64 has.
Mhm.
Um, but he did the best he could. He made it so that between certain loading zones, you can loop those loading zones. And he also made it so that you can have, obviously infinite items. The jiggies respawn. You can reset all the levels. You can teleport to any level you want. Like he did stuff that like nobody ever thought possible for many, many, many years for Banjo. And I think that's why in this last year in particular, a lot of runners have really taken off and started getting really, really crazy good times. People
Yeah.
don't seem to notice, but in the last year, um, it's hard to notice with if you're in the Banjo Kazooie community and you watch like all the top runners,
Mhm.
everybody improved a lot, including Stivity Bobo. So you're seeing like everybody who's like focused on world record, focused on Stiv, is seeing his world records get better and better, and people are watching people like me and Hagger like, oh my god, you're just taking off so much time this year. But it's like people underestimate Stiv's improvement because he's always been the world record holder, but this year it's
Mhm.
been insane.
mhm,
All the
Really?
top runners have had huge, huge leaps.
it's true.
And I definitely credit a lot of that to Mittens
Wait,
Hug and his practice ROM.
you mean this year as in like
As in the
2018?
last 12 months, not 2018.
Right. Okay. Of course. Okay. Any more points in getting into speedrunning that you want to point out, or anyone who wants to point out?
No,
Well,
just
just
like
to
you
go
go
ahead.
for it. No,
No, you go ahead. No, I insist, my good
okay,
man.
sure.
With the
I was
tie.
just gonna reiterate the things that I think are the most important, which is don't be afraid to run on emulator, find
Mhm.
value in beating your own times, don't reset. You know, if you want to do it for streaming too, that's fun. Stream.
Right. There's a streaming aspect as well, which makes it more fun by a lot.
Mhm. Oh yeah, it's like if you only cared about getting good time. Personally, I know that I would probably have a way better time if I never ever streamed and only did runs. But I love sharing the moment of the PB with like
Yeah.
a stream of
And the
people.
thing is, I think without streaming, I would not have nearly reached as far as I did in the first place, because streaming is like a lot of the reason why it's so fun to be able to like do runs for hours and hours without getting bored.
Hmm.
So I think it's a big part as well. Um, but I do know tons of runners, especially in the Mario 64 community, that don't even stream, or they stream every once in a while without mic or cam, whatever. They don't care. They just love to doing runs.
Mhm. I think that's what's part of keeps people going. I mean, that's kind of what kept me going. Like I loved Mario, but I also had a stream, and like when I could actually dedicate more time to it, because when you're generating revenue and it becomes like you're able to do it as a job,
Mm.
then that's even more like positive feedback for you to want to do it. So I think speedrunning is definitely a lot of fun, and it's something that like I enjoy a lot. But I don't know if only speedrunning would have like if I'd still be here. If I was only speedrunning, I feel like
Yeah,
Twitch.
Exactly.
that's a good point. I mean, don't like I always say like it's not a good idea to get into streaming to try to be a streamer and like have it
Definitely,
be a
yeah.
job. Almost every single partnered streamer I know had never had that intention and it just happened naturally. And almost every streamer I know who actively goes towards becoming partnered and like being able to have it as their job. Like and now that everybody can have sub button, that's nice.
Hmm.
But I think that they fail because they're not really enjoying what they're doing. They
Yeah,
just want to do it. They just want to keep doing it. So
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
I think it can be cool to think like maybe someday like if I get to a certain level and I'm really really good at the game, lots more people are gonna watch me. I think that's more exciting. And that's a better way to look at it than thinking like I can generate revenue. Like
Yeah.
that won't always work out.
Exactly.
Not too many people have that work out.
Yeah, it's funny, and like you bring up the point how when that is their goal, it's like usually a failure because you're just kind of setting yourself up. Because like when your goal is something that's only in the future, like you can't see any of it right now, you're not doing any of it. It's hard to find the motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly how it happened for me. I was just having fun, and like you just keep going, dude, and eventually you're like, wow, I've come so far. Like you're second now.
Yep.
And like you never had that intention. You just kind of keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Thus is life. Thus is speedruns.
And speedrunning might not end up being your thing.
Yeah.
If you don't feel the same like super enjoyment from it on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys think that we should start getting into the Q&A section, or you still have some more stuff to talk about?
I feel pretty good. I think we
Yeah.
covered a lot of things. Oh, actually, I have one more.
Hopefully that was useful for people.
Yeah. One question I get a lot, I don't know about you guys, but people always ask, like, how much runs should I do? Or should I practice a lot before runs? Like, is there a golden rule for practice to runs? And I don't really have a great answer for the question. I kind of like when I started, I just did what I felt like. Like, I did mostly runs. And if there's something that I knew I really needed to practice, I'd be like, okay, let's go practice that. And then
I think I have a really good example. Thank you, Chindara, for the resub. Bob, welcome back to the fridge for 7 months.
I'll go
Appreciate
to the
love.
fridge.
All right.
Welcome back to the
Good
fridge.
Yeah, fridge, good fridge.
Fridge.
So I think I have a good example. Again, I'm going to talk about Peter Chris. This is a good example. He started playing Mario recently, and he kind of dived right into grinding a lots and lots of practice. And he got really good really fast in terms of movement in the game and getting actual speed. But when he does runs, he struggles really, really badly. He can't get a great time, even though his skill level is much higher than his PB.
There's someone like that in BK as well.
Right, it's crazy. And it's
always one.
It's kind of simple how it works. Basically, if you don't do any runs in a theoretical standpoint, if you think about theoretically, if you don't do any runs, you don't have any consistency because it's all about RTA practice for consistency. And if you don't do runs, you would not be able to have a good time, no matter what, no matter how good you are, because you need to build that consistency. Yeah.
You don't know how many times you see it in speedrunning. If you're I've watched speedrunning forever, like all the different games, all the different runners. You don't know how many times you see someone be like, I practiced this for 4 hours and I keep resetting on it. I can't get it in a run. That's the thing. I find practicing something outside of a run and also needing to do it like a bunch of times in runs. There's two mentalities happening that don't coincide, and it's like, oh man, for me it was recently. There's this new Gobi clip thing. I did it for hours, like literally 5 hours, and then like the next day, like didn't get it once in any run. And you just have to keep doing runs.
It's totally true.
Practice and runs are both really important.
It's so true.
Do runs.
I had that same experience where it's crazy how you would practice one trick over and over again, and when you're doing a run, it's a completely different mindset. Like you don't know why either. You don't want it to be that way, but when you do a run, it's just you feel and think differently when you actually approach the trick. And I could definitely say out there that for any speedrunners, I mean, this is just my thought. I don't know about everyone else, but when you practice a new trick, you're bound to fail it in runs, especially for the first few times. I think failing the tricks are a huge part of being able to do it consistently in the first place. So don't be afraid of failing new tricks in runs because it's going to happen. But it's good. It's not a bad thing because then that's how you build the mindset and the understanding for it.
And that being said, it's another good reason when you have had something that you've practiced that's new that you haven't done in runs before, don't reset before that. If you've got, you're going to fail it in runs a bunch of times. So you have to get there to get the practice of doing it with the run mindset. It's great.
Right.
All right. I'm good on that.
All right. Are you ready to start the Q&A section simply?
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Let's do it, baby.
All right, so people in chat, it is time for the Q&A. Whoever has questions, go ahead. We'll be here to answer them. And we already have one. Okay. Guisht asks, any thoughts on why there aren't a lot of races anymore? That's a really good question. I think there's too much focus on getting PBs and world records instead of friendly, fun competition. It's funny you mention that because I literally saw bunches of tweets lately talking about that specific thing. There was this kind of, not controversy, but a big topic was raised recently on that exact topic of the idea that people focus way too much on world records and speedrunning and not the fun and just fun competition aspect, like you put it. Yeah, dude. Well, in terms of I'll answer the first part of the question first. Why are there a lot of races anymore? Well, I don't think anyone knows why, but it is true though. When I started speedrunning, at least in 2014, every day I was on Speedrunners Live all day because there were always races. Every hour there was a new Mario 64 race,
Yeah.
7-star bingo.
That is a good point. I never really thought about.
Right, races were a huge part of speedrunning, especially in Speedrunners Live, back in the day. Now it's. I mean, I don't think I've visited Speedrunners Live in a year or so. I haven't done any races at all. There, I go there and I never see any activity.
I don't know, dude. It's hard. Races can be hard.
If you want, I have a point though. If you do want to see races, I think the big thing is that they would put there's like tournaments and stuff always happening on speed gaming that I think is really cool, and it does get a lot of viewers and a lot of hype.
It does.
And that's will put that together, and I think maybe those tournaments have just taken over the tournament lifestyle rather than just, hey buddy, want to do a race? It's like no, like they set up like a challenge.com, and then the races are structured on speed gaming, not on the streamer stream as much.
Which I think is amazing, by the way. I think the whole speed gaming and tournament stuff that's going on is huge for the speedrunning community. But yeah,
tournaments are sick. They're fun to watch, and I've been commentating on some of those matches, and commentating's a lot of fun. They're really interesting. I mean, sometimes the thing about a race is like it won't be close at all. Like sometimes, somebody just makes a mistake. Like there's spots in the game where you can lose so much time, but there's been a lot of really good ones, and I think that's exactly what you're saying, Dick. Like it's still happening, but in a different form.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's almost evolved because of the GDQ kind of style of thing, where it's like you have the race during the marathon. I don't know. It's like this. It's got to be a bigger deal, I guess, than just like a fun thing. But I actually do miss doing like silly little.
Me too. I think it's a great thing.
There's a good question here. I see. Right after question.
We didn't get to answer the second part of the question. Which I think is a big topic. I think there's too much focus on getting PBs and world records instead of friendly, fun competition. What do you guys think about that?
I think, look at Dick and Hag. Right now, they're like in a very intense competition for getting the best time. So I feel like they just want to dedicate all their time to doing runs. And like if you're doing a race, I don't know about you guys, but I've done races before, and like if it goes really bad, it kind of drains you. Like it can be a little draining to do a race, and then you kind of lose the energy you had for
there has to have a point to it that's more than just, hey, let's do a race. Okay, fine, 3, 2, 1, let's go. When there's an actual point to the race, whether, for example, marathons or tournaments like the speed gaming tournaments or GDQs, when there's the point to it, then it's a whole different feeling. Then it's not about finishing the run. You don't ever feel like you don't want to finish the run. Then it's about winning, and then you actually care about winning, and you don't care about if it's a bad run or not.
Yeah. And if you're on the grind for a PB, you're not gonna want to and all you want to do is runs. Yeah, Simply said before.
Exactly.
You just get a tunnel vision, dude. You just gotta.
So
you're stuck.
So why do you guys think that there is too much focus on world records instead of friendly competition?
Well, world records or PBs, I think that's a good point. Is that like too much focus on PBs? I think was an interesting thing he said, which. I had a point where I got like a 210 at one point where I was like, okay, I've got my 210. I finally feel like I'm a good runner. I'm just going to do races now. I'm not even going to try to get more PBs. I like where I'm at. I don't care. I haven't felt like that in a really, really long time. But if not everybody's feeling like that at the same point, then the race mentality, the mentality to want to do fun races is gone, because if even one person is like, no, I don't want to do races. I need to do grind.
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely need to flip the way you're thinking. Like there's so many times where I'd go into a race and be like, yeah, I'm gonna focus on winning the race, but low key, I'm like, I just want to get a PB, so I'm gonna try my best, and then I'd be playing good, and it'd be good. But then if I made a
Right.
mistake, I'm like, well,
I feel like a lot of times people would think it's just fun to try to get a PB in a race because you're doing it with somebody else. But you're not actually thinking about it as a race, just thinking about it as getting a PB.
it's probably better to think of it as like a way to test your consistency. Like,
Right.
okay, you might have messed up this stage really bad, but let's see if you can keep the rest of the run going clean.
Precisely.
Which is it's very important in speedrunning to be able to be consistent. But we got a lot of good questions coming in here. You guys see any on your mind?
Well, the one right after Quished, I think, is a really important one based on our topic.
Oh yeah,
Can
definitely.
you talk about how much money you specifically had to put into speedrunning? And I would say for me specifically, when I was starting, I mean, I was already I was like always on a computer. I was always a computer. Like I had a computer, so I didn't like get one. I could stream on that computer. I had good internet already. And so for me, I was like, when I wanted to get into speedrunning, all I did was download OBS, download an emulator, and start streaming myself doing it on emulator. That cost
Yeah.
me no money. When I wanted to get a Dazzle DVC 100, I found one on eBay for like $15. I got
Steal.
that. And then when you have the capture card, at that point, you have everything you need. If you have the capture device, if you want to get into streaming, specifically speedrunning, at a certain point you're gonna maybe want to get a mic. That's the next step. You're gonna maybe want to get a face cam if you're into that. Not everybody even needs that. Definitely you want to get live split, but that doesn't cost any money. So getting into speedrunning, you don't
Pretty
really have to
cheap.
spend. I didn't put much money into speedrunning until after it was my job and I wanted to make my stream look better. That was more
And
getting into streaming.
yeah, at that point it's like, okay, a Yeti's like 100, so I've put 100 in there because I wanted to upgrade my mic quality. But before that, it was just emulator, like you said, emulator, and I had a controller laying around for free. But at some point, if you're speedrunning long enough, I think you'll want to upgrade to console, or like maybe not upgrade, but you want to like, depending on the community. And in Mario,
And when you decide
N64
you're
is
putting
like,
that much effort into it and you're that much
yeah,
part of the community, you'll put the money into it.
yeah, and I mean, N64 is like $40, $20 with all the cords. The game is like 10, $20, so not even over $200 total on speedrun. Dude, you can get CRTs for free. If you go to Craigslist, people are like, "Get this thing out of my house," and you're like, "Yeah, this is what I need."
Yeah. CRT never spend more than $10 on a CRT ever.
Wow,
If you do, you're getting bobbed. Unless it's super good. There's some nice ones like the flat. Mine. I paid 24. Okay, to be honest, but I've gotten some free ones.
Player.
I spent $50 on my CRT.
Wow.
Because I don't know, in Spain it's not as common. Or maybe I just found a bad one. It's not like we don't have a Craigslist when people just have it all over the place. Right. Me personally, well, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, in terms of getting to speedrunning, yeah, it's the same thing because we buy the same thing. We speedrun on the same console too, which is we pretty much get the same catch card, microphone, and all that stuff. So pretty much what they covered it covers that question really well. In terms of people who speedrun HD games, Odyssey, and that kind of stuff, then you're gonna have to spend more money to get a better
Throw some
capture
bands
card, to get the HD capture card going.
And unfortunately, for the HD capture card to be streamed would require a pretty good PC, like straight up.
Yeah, and you need LCD and LCD TV, stuff like that, which would be more expensive, by quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
All right. Gosh,
I actually don't use conditioner. That's my secret.
Really? Oh, okay. So we have a question directed to Dickhiskhan, and he's the guest. So, Tony Robbins, he says, Dickhiskhan, what is the best way to get into Banjo-Kazooie speedrunning? I'm a big fan, by the way. You got a fan in chat, Dickhiskhan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Getting into Banjo-Kazooie speedrunning, well, there is a Smasher 32 way back in the day made a bunch of tutorial videos and a big old Banjo-Kazooie tutorial. However, it has since become extremely dated. You might still find some value in it.
I actually saw that tutorial when I was learning in 2015.
Yeah. At this point, honestly, the best tutorial out there is Haginator's tutorial on YouTube. He has a beginner's tutorial where he goes through the run and tries to explain things as he goes, and he does more simple, safe strats throughout, so you can get into it. the crazy thing with Banjo-Kazooie speedrunning right now is that the route has transformed into this thing. I can kind of relate it to LBLJ route, like where
Mhm.
you wouldn't want to start learning Mario 64 with LBLJ route
Yeah.
in mind, because that trick is extremely hard. Only the advanced runners are going to need to do it, and doesn't save that much time.
Right.
So with Banjo-Kazooie right now, the route is extremely different for top runners to save like 1 more minute.
Mhm.
But you definitely want to look at Haginator's tutorial on YouTube. He has a beginner's tutorial there, and also maybe find some value in Smashers. Ask questions. We have a Banjo-Kazooie Discord that's public, and if you ask a question in there, someone will answer it really quickly. And if you're really, really struggling with something, don't be afraid to ask anyone for help. Like
Right.
it's unfortunately there isn't like a really solid concrete tutorial on every little trick and thing in Banjo-Kazooie right now, but
Again, questions. You can
watch
ask
videos,
questions.
ask questions. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think Discord, for that reason, is it's like the best thing that could happen to speedrunning, because Discord
Yeah.
opens so many opportunities in terms of help and resources.
Oh, and speedrun.com, of course.
Of course.
Speedrun.com for any given game you're going to speedrun.
Mhm.
On the sidebar, your mod, whoever's like the super mod or the person who runs that part of speedrun.com, they'll put all the resources that they know of in that tab. Like
Right.
bookmark that resources tab, speedrun.com/banjo. Get on that resources tab and just bookmark that and go through it and see what you need to do.
Perfect.
That's definitely a good start. There's a lot of good stuff there.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
Ode, I don't know how to say his name, Ode Me, his question, like piggybacking on, do you think tutorials, like on the topic of tutorials, do you think they're an efficient way to get into running, or would you prefer just watching a high level run and learning from that?
There's different. Watching a high level run and learning from it can only get you so far. When you see a trick and you have no idea how he did what he did.
Yeah, exactly. It just comes
So
back to questions, asking.
routing and movement probably. So like a lot of that you could learn, especially for Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64. I think a lot of it could be learned from just watching runs. I wouldn't recommend watching like high level runs. Maybe watch someone who's like maybe like 20th place or something,
Yeah.
and then but learning tricks you'll have to be taught how to do it, unless you want to try to figure out how to do it on your own for personal, like for fun, but it's inefficient to try to learn it from watching.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
difficult. I think a combination of both is a good thing to do. That's what I did for Mario and OT. When I learned Mario, I looked at both players that were not great at the game, and I also looked at people that were great at the game, like Punkation. And I would watch both runners play and basically learn from both of them. And I would try my best to learn, not like the pro stuff, but good strats and stuff, and try to do good strats. And if I can't do them right away, which mostly is what happened, then you could watch players that are like lower down on the board and look at their strats and learn the easier strats, and go little by little. But I think always looking at good players play is good in general, because you learn, or at least you understand by viewing them what it looks like to be good at the game. So you have a general sense of what you're supposed to look like when you're playing the game to be good. That was really loud. Holy crap. But yeah, that's good points. All right, I just got a donation, but the notification is not working right now. I'm sorry. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it.
Dang it!
Not acceptable though. Yeah.
Preston's TV asks, what do you think about running obscure or irrelevant games? Is it worth it if you're focused on streaming? Huh.
No.
If you're focused on streaming.
Next question.
Yeah, if you're focused on honestly, if you're focused on streaming, it's not gonna. First of all, if you're focused on streaming, you're not gonna have fun in speedrunning in the first place, like Dick pointed out earlier. So you're probably gonna quit very quickly anyway. And the answer to that question generally is no, it's not gonna work out.
Yeah, if you want to, I mean, I don't know. If you want to speedrun an irrelevant game because you really care about getting world record, I think that's not a great mindset to just like, I'm going to speedrun this because nobody else has ever speedrun it. I'll get a free world record. Like, I don't know about that one.
It's
and
not,
also, like,
no one would even care anyway, so you're not even doing yourself a favor.
Exactly.
You're like, what game is that? I've never heard of that game. Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, but if you just happen to like a really obscure game and that was a game that you played growing up or whatever, and you want to speedrun it, of course, go right ahead. If you're gonna have tons of fun with it, that's perfect. It's
I see
perfectly
someone in the
fine.
chat. Someone said PJ pretty much only runs obscure games and he averages like 500 viewers. PJ didn't always only run obscure games, and I've seen him run really really popular NES titles a lot when he was like in his earlier days.
Right.
He's also extremely entertaining.
Yeah, and he's
Uh,
probably doing this for years and years, so you have to remember
yeah,
that too.
he's been streaming forever, and he's at every
Yeah.
GDQ. He's like a huge part of it.
Right.
Everybody knows him from GDQ too, and yeah, it's his entertainment factor. Once you already have built like a foundation of like you're a big streamer, you get like, and people
You can
love to
do
watch
whatever.
you. You can do whatever,
Do whatever you want, man.
PG is definitely entertaining. That's a huge. If getting into streaming is a whole other topic, and being entertaining is the number. I think that's just you gotta say that's really really important. When
Yeah.
you're streaming.
I find it hard to watch people get really negative. I find it hard to watch people who get really negative while they are doing runs. How do you keep yourself from getting to that point?
I think it has to do with expectations. Like if you go into a stream expecting, like for example, when we were talking about, let's say you practice something new, going into it in a run, you're like, oh, I practiced this, and you're like expecting, like usually when I practice something, I'm expecting that I'll fail it a couple times, and if I fail it a couple times, it's not a big deal. But I used to practice something and be like, okay, I practiced this, I better not mess it up, and when you mess it up, it just kind of gets you in a negative mood sometimes, like especially when you're so dedicated and you're doing hours a day, you're like, if you hit walls or you can't get something right, it's hard to, depending on your expectations.
Yeah, I think it was a good question to ask. Cheese, I know for sure used to get way more negative than he does now. So Cheese is familiar with that, and same with me. Like,
I've
yeah,
seen you
there's a
lately.
point in
I've seen you
lately
lately in the past
I've
few
been getting
streams.
it happens like that's why it's like I don't know if I can really answer this like honestly because I feel like sometimes I am one of those streamers that gets super negative, but I think you mean in the extreme sense, like streamers who are like constantly only ever negative, like all the time, like getting mad. It's it's hard to say that you can always stay away from that mindset. I think that all three of us can say that it's like even at this point there's not going to be a time where we're ever going to get away from like maybe 20 minutes or half an hour where we're really like not in a good mood
Right.
on stream
Yeah.
because we lost a good run or something.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, my gut answer, my gut feeling, like immediately wanted me to answer no right away because it honestly feels like it almost like you can't keep yourself from getting to that point.
Yeah.
Because it's people who put in the time that like all three of us basically the time and effort that we put into our games and practice, and when things are not just going your way and
the difficulty that comes with where you've gotten, like it gets harder.
it gets harder.
It will never get easier because your time keeps getting better. It's literally
Right.
only going to get harder and harder and harder. So if you're watching a lot of top runners getting negative, you have to understand that it's avoiding the mindset is not really possible. I don't think. I think recovering from it better is something that we're all learning.
That's the important part. Is the better question is how do you think you can recover or limit the amount of negativity that you put out there? I got mine too.
little boy cup.
That's my bossy glass. All right, it's about limiting the level of negativity that you feel, because to avoid it completely, I think it's impossible because you have to understand the amount of effort that we put into this stuff, and your emotions as a human being, you can't help but to feel annoyed and angry a lot sometimes. Some people are better than others in controlling it. And that's just how it works. It's just a very, very difficult matter.
Yeah. It's really hard because like as like I think it would be really hard if I didn't have like, a fan base and a viewership. If you sit there and you're like salty and pissed off and you can't even like respond to anyone in chat because you don't want, like they're all just being dicks. You just like I don't want to talk to chat. I don't want to say anything and I like start another run, like so mad. It's like it's not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
you got to take your breaks.
Yes.
That has
Yeah.
happened so much to me where I start runs and I'm mad. But I could definitely say that I've learned so much now that I know when and when not to do runs. So when to start runs. I know if I am mad, I know how to control myself way better now.
Yeah. You don't want to be a big whiny bitch in front of your stream.
Yeah, you have to know when to relax, take breaks.
Yeah. I think taking breaks, that's like whenever I would like if you can recognize it, that's good because once you recognize it, you're like, okay, if I have this negative energy and I'm like kind of feeling negative, if I start a run, the chances are it won't be that good. But honestly, taking like a 5 minute break, like I would just walk around my house, maybe grab something to eat, walk around, jumping jacks, get the blood flowing a little bit,
Sometimes I literally leave my house and walk up
Really?
and down my street. Yeah. Like
Dude, get some
I
fresh
find
air.
sometimes and it can be 5 minutes, but if you're in sometimes you're in just such a bad mood, sometimes I need like a really long time before I get over it. So I just have to be like, guys, I'm taking a break, and I'll like leave my stream for 10 minutes. It's like you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I do that I should do it more often. I do it like every 3 hours. I should do it more often. I think every hour you should take 5 minutes to just walk around, talk to somebody in the house a bit, and just get off your mind. It's kind of like a reset thing. You have to like recharge, because after doing it for years, it's like you know exactly what mindset you're gonna go in every time
You have to
do it.
reset in real life every once in a while.
Yeah, so like when you're mad and you're not doing well, you need to take like a 5 minutes and think to yourself, okay, time to restart again. Let's get the mindset we had when we started the stream in the beginning.
Honestly, I'm like even glad we're just like answered a question about that because it's like making me think. It's like Cheese knows I have a problem with that, or I currently do because of it's when you're deep into the grind and you're on fire that's when it becomes the worst. I think we can all agree on that.
Definitely.
So like definitely talking about this and reiterating it in my mind is really helpful for me even.
Yeah, dude, it's like a very common thing. You see it all the time.
Okay.
Questions.
I have a question. Well, I don't have a question, but Isaac A says, why do people prefer to play on CRT? What advantage does it have over a regular TV? Depending on the TV, some LCD screens don't have a delay, but for the most part, like before I played on a CRT, I played on LCD, and I didn't actually notice the delay that much because I played on emulator, and I guess emulator might have a bit of delay. I didn't really feel like there was much, but when you go from LCD to CRT, it's like it feels like the game knows what you want to do. Like it moves right at your fingertips.
So you went from emulator to LCD?
Yeah.
And then CRT.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
You see, emulator to LCD. I think LCD in terms of input delay would be worse than emulator.
Yeah, I think it was, but I'd also
worse.
changed controller from Xbox to N64, so I was like, oh, maybe this is just how it feels. But
oh man, when I went from emulator to CRT for the first time, it's just way different for me. Like if you're speedrunning a game that's like really movement intensive and constantly moving, like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64, we have a really common the type of game we play and the type of speedrun it is. I kind of categorize speedruns into two different sections.
Ooh.
At least like two main sections of speedruns that I think about is like movement based, fast paced speedruns and glitch playgrounds. And like I think that Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64 are both movement fast paced speedruns. So
definitely,
if you're trying to speedrun an old school game on an HD TV, and you're like speedrunning is just like you're always trying to do frame perfect stuff. And if you're like you're trying to be frame perfect on everything you do, you want to do things as fast as you can to the frame. You're never going to be able to do that on an HD TV at a high level. Well, you might be able to learn how to deal with the delay, but it's so not worth it. You're giving yourself a huge unnecessary handicap.
Right.
If you don't have a CRT.
Explaining this stuff to my family is like the hardest thing in the world. Though that's why do you have to use this big fat TV for? And I'm just like, I can't tell you why because you're not gonna understand.
just don't get it, man.
Zell made a really good point here, and I was gonna mention it, but I thought it might have been kind of obscure. People might not have agreed on understood what I said. But he says it's just like sports. You don't expect athletes to be happy after losing a game. They get salty because they didn't perform to their liking. It's the same idea when we were talking about not getting negative and high level speedrunning, because I was going to relate it to sports And because I think Zalizal is perfectly right. I think if Usain Bolt loses a race to somebody he shouldn't have lost to, he would be totally defeated and negative about it. It's the same idea, because when you practice so much for something and you expect to perform a certain way and then you don't, you can't help it but to feel negative. It's very, very hard to not feel that way. But I think you guys understand what that point more or less.
If you're like, yeah, it's like being a top athlete. I'm sure it relates to being a top athlete.
Right.
Esports, sports, speedrunning.
There's definitely some
mentality
overlap.
will be the same.
Exactly.
Just becoming the best at something, like there's
Yeah.
that
Right.
universal.
There's an interesting question here. Tater Z asks, do you think there is any shame in copying someone's route or learning from it and analyzing it to be better? If you do you think you should credit the person who you learned from? Well, the thing about speedrunning is that routes are routes because they're the fastest route. So if there's a route that is the fastest route, everyone is going to run that route because you're trying to beat the game as fast as you can. So it's a community understanding, basically, that everyone would do the same route, or not everyone, but all top runners would do the same fastest route, because it only makes sense, right? So no, it's not. There's no shame at all.
Yeah. I had that question recently too. I thought it was strange. Like,
I thought it was strange too, but it's understandable.
It's totally something you should think about, and it's not something like getting into speedrunning and coming into the speedrunning scene. It's definitely a surprising thing when you see that everybody's doing the exact same route through the game, and nobody's like, "Oh, this route's faster. I'm doing this route," and he thinks his route's faster, but I think no. They time this stuff. Everybody knows which is the exact fastest route.
Right. Everyone times it for
Everybody does it.
Right. Do you think you should credit the person you learned from, if you want to? But
nice to give shout outs.
Yeah,
they're not gonna care at the end of the day, because they've already talked about it, like secretly in Discord or whatever, for a very long time. Everyone is already it's already established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of how you bring a community together, not only in route, but people come up with ideas. Like me and Cheese have come up with some things in the Mario community, and it's not like we come up with it and we don't tell anybody, or you come up with a small change and you don't tell anybody.
So rare that happens eager to see.
Yeah. I think it's pretty. I think that's how I would assume that's how it is. Like, I know for OT, definitely they make like all the like, you'll see Twitter videos of a comparison, or
I just bet it's so rare that someone will like not want to say what they do. Like, I think there's cases of it. Like I remember something. I can't remember specifically what it was. A case of someone like not wanting to reveal stuff that they were doing and learning and finding. But it's so rare. Like, everybody's just like, "Oh my god, I found this new time save. I have to tell everyone right now."
Yeah.
It's like that mentality. It's not like I'm not going to tell anyone and just use this and not mention it and hope nobody notices. Everybody wants to help each other, which is cool.
How do you handle runs when you're very nervous? Ooh.
Oh God, what a question.
Oh God, what a question. I could talk about this for hours. Oh man. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I think it's a whole art by itself. First of all, the idea of learning how to handle runs when you're nervous and handle PB pace runs, that gets better and better the more experience you have in speedrunning. You learn how to handle the stress more and more as you speedrun.
I don't think there's like a good advice. I think you just have to get used to it. I don't know.
It's all experience. You just have to experience it yourself and know what it feels like, and you have to feel that heart racing and that energy to be able to learn from it.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying before on, you have to practice something to get it down like 100% consistent, and then you have to do it in a run. Because let's say you have something 100% consistent, not in a run, and it's at the end of the game, and you're like on a pace that's like so absurdly good, and you're like, you didn't ever think you're gonna be so nervous. Like, you're gonna have to practice that. You need to make sure that that's 200% good, because you'll lose 100% as soon as you get into the nerves, as soon as you get into the run.
Right.
So if you want, the only advice I can give on nerves at the end of a speed run to try and like not choking is just practice like more, like because you know
It's-
that the nerves are gonna screw it so
Mhm.
much that you're gonna have to just be able to do it even though your
Right.
brain isn't working.
Yeah. I used to be so, if I was nervous and I was doing bits, like bits is at the end of Mario 64. That was a stage that I didn't practice very much. So like I already wasn't that good at it. And when I'm going in there nervous, I'm like, oh man, I'm not very good at this stage. So we'll see what happens. And then you're even more shaky. But I actually, for the like, it took me a while. I don't know why it took me so long, but I know Cheese practices the hell out of bits. But I started putting time into bits because I'd watch Cheese and he'd get a really fast cycle. And I'd be like, how are you going that fast?
Right.
And
I
I just
remember that.
grinded it. Dude, yeah, I was so confused. It didn't make any sense, and I just started grinding at it. And then as you grind something, you kind of find the little intricacies that you can't even see.
I remember
Yeah.
you practiced that. You never.
It got a
really
lot better.
experienced. Yeah.
And like
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think during downtime, like Banjo Kazooie, when you get a jiggy, he does like a little dance. Or I guess when you leave a stage, or like the movement, like the openings and time where you don't have to focus that hard. I think, at least for me, it helps to breathe, dude. As cliche as it sounds, you just forget about everything. Forget about, oh, I'm on PB pace, all
Yeah.
this stuff. Just be like,
Luckily, one of the longest downtime sections in Banjo Kazooie is like it's super short, but you like it's at the end of the game when you there's like an eagle and you have to feed it caterpillars in autumn, and you have to give them 10 caterpillars. And it's just like 1, 2, and it's just like Banjo's like throwing these caterpillars, and you're just breathing. Like it's just nice if you have downtime, breathe. That is such a good point of advice, honestly.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Breathing is actually a legit point. It's not even a joke. Like, for example, the last world record run I have, I was basically nervous. I usually am not, but for some reason on that run, I was nervous from since like 20 minutes in all the way to the end of the run, and which is like a good hour and 20 minutes of being nervous, and that's hard to handle.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I literally had to, at least like 20 occasions in that run alone, I had to tell myself, breathe. I had to tell myself, hey, take a deep breath. Just breathe, relax, feel your heartbeat, and just kind of, I don't have any more water, so I can't do it. Rip. It's crazy. Like you learn all these techniques.
Well, you got to get a bigger cup.
Yeah, you learn all these techniques from just experience. But it does take a while to get used to, for sure.
Yeah, Zelly is like that's regulating your breathing, taking big deep breaths will bring your heart rate down, or it'll help too.
It's so true. It's a huge part of speedrunning, but it's also, I want to point out, that is also a large part of the reason why I love speedrunning in the first place. It's like that adrenaline rush that you get is a huge part of my joy in speedrunning. You feel that, oh my gosh, that feeling of, oh, I'm on PB pace. That alone is the best feeling of speedrunning because it makes you
pop off, and when you get it or when you fail, it's like that's the thing is like even if you choke a run where you get that huge adrenaline rush and that pump, and you're like it's insane and you're nervous, even if the run like dies and you choke it horribly, you had that feeling. And
exactly.
I rage less when I've had that. I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
People are like, dude, I would have broken my TV. I would have kicked a hole in the wall. You're handling this so well, and I'm just like coming down from like a high or something. Like I don't even care.
Dude, it's a literal runner's high, like speedrunner's
runner's high. Yeah, speedrunner's high. Okay. Next question: why do you do most of your practice off stream? Oh, this one is directed to me personally. I see Punkay practice the same segment for hours, and I'm sure you do the same. But is there a reason to do it off stream? Me personally, I don't like streaming practice because when I practice, it's usually I'm focused on the game, trying to get good and trying to practice. I don't want to talk. I don't want to look at chat much. I want to practice and focus on getting good because I want to focus on improving what I need to improve. So I don't like practicing when I'm streaming because when I'm streaming, I like to interact with chat. I don't want chat to be bored, So when I'm practicing, I don't want to be looking at chat all the time. So it's not a good combination. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I agree.
Sometimes I'll stream it. Like if it's a warm up, like if I know I'm going to be doing run and it's just stuff that I'm secure on, like I'm not trying to learn anything, I'm just kind of reinforcing it, I'll stream it. But I definitely agree. Like when you have a chat, you want to attend to the chat naturally, and if you're practicing and trying to attend to chat, you'll be practicing a lot less,
Yeah.
almost
Your
guaranteed.
practice will lose quality, but I think that I agree. Like most of my streams lately, I start with practice for a little bit. Just like I reiterate certain things I know I'm gonna want to do before a run, and sometimes like if you have like a stream intro, I don't know if you guys have that, but when I start my stream, I play an intro, and like a
Mhm.
lot of the time during that intro, I'll be practicing for like 15 minutes, and then I'll start the stream with a tiny bit of practice. But yeah, most of the any time I've ever tried to stream practice, I really think the quality of the practice goes down.
It does,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why. I don't know about Punky. I mean, he's used to it. He doesn't. I mean, when I do watch Punky stream practice, he doesn't really talk to chat like ever.
Yeah.
So that's why it just doesn't make. I don't think it makes that much sense.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to do it. Like if you're like, okay, I want to be like every time you stream, like Punke, you're right. He doesn't use mic, he doesn't use webcam, and he's not really responding to chat. I think he just wants to stream it, so people can see what he's up to, kind of thing. I mean, he'll type, but if that's the way you're gonna do it, then I think you can practice and get some good practice. But no matter what, when there's a chat and you're live, it's a
Yeah,
little
it's harder
different.
for some people than others. Like I don't think I would ever be able to stream and or like click start streaming and then completely ignore chat for like hours of practice.
Yeah, no
Like
way.
even though probably people would want to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
just
not
the
gonna say that.
entertainer in us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say that no one would want to watch me just practice and completely ignore them. Like people
Right.
probably want that, but I would find it hard to do.
Okay. The question right after that, I think, is really interesting. I think you guys would have really good insight on it. As a new speedrunner, and this goes back to the main topic of the day, I guess. As a new speedrunner,
Topic of the day.
As a new speedrunner, how do you handle not being able to perform a trick? Dun, 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 dun.
So how do you handle it? What do you do, man?
Get help. Ask someone who never fails the trick how they do it. I guess is all I would say on that. It's like I hardly remember. I think one thing that I wish I did more when I was learning speedrunning is ask for help, because I know from my perspective now I'm so happy to give help that as a new speedrunner I wouldn't be afraid to ask for it.
Right. I was the same thing when I
If I could
started.
go back in
When I started, I never asked for help because I didn't know how. I didn't know it was a common thing to ask for help. I didn't know how it really worked, the whole speedrunning community.
Yeah, and it's like, I just remember like countless times like stuff like that where I would try to do a trick and just couldn't do it because I didn't know how to do it. I mean, first of all, like make sure you know how to do it. Like if you're not getting it ever, like and you get so mad and it's so not necessary. Like,
Right.
just ask someone how do you
avoidable.
do it.
I was gonna point out something. Right. I think it also comes back to the point where you need to know. Oh, you need to understand too that if you're a new speedrunner, you shouldn't go for tricks that you know would be too difficult to do in the first place. So if you try a trick out and you immediately realize, okay, this is way out of my league, you should be able to tell yourself, okay, let's move on, let's try something a bit easier, So it really is not that complicated. It's kind of simple. You just gotta know what is smart and what is not in terms of what tricks to do.
And I think that just a little like not like to counter that point, but just like a little aside is that there are people who will just find so much enjoyment and fun in trying these super hard tricks and stuff that they probably shouldn't start out with. And like there's no reason that we're not telling you shouldn't do it. We're advising you that if your goal is to get a great time, the best way you can do that is to avoid doing this trick. But if you if your goal is to do all the tricks, then that could be more fun for you. So
right.
Yeah. Really depends on your aim.
Yeah.
But definitely when you're starting out, I mean, it does depend on the game, but I think this speaks for Banjo and Mario is movement is going to save you way more time than learning this strat that saves
tricks,
10 seconds,
Yes.
20 seconds. Like your movement is going to be the biggest thing that you need to improve. when
That's
you're
a-
starting out.
That's a
And by movement, I mean like you're not clipping a wall or anything. It's like a sequence of
Getting
long
from
jumps,
point A to point
dives,
B.
or
just mechanics in general.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem in the Mario 64 community, where so many new runners, and almost every day I see them in my chat telling me, hey Chief, why can't I do LBLJ? I'm trying to do it. It's so hard. I don't understand why, and they say, oh geez, I just got LBLJ for the first time. I've been grinding this for like hours, and or other tricks like I don't know, really really hard tricks. Just because it's like a popular trick, they try these ones first. But and then I say, LBLJ is like extremely difficult. You won't even be able to do that unless you know somewhat how the mechanics work in Mario. So it's like you gotta know what you gotta, what priorities you should set first to actually get good in the first place.
But I even just for myself, I know when I was saying I was gonna learn Super Mario 64 120 star. I really wanted to learn to speedrun it, but then now I'm sort of really focused on Banjo. You get whatever your goals are. But when I was starting to learn Super Mario 64 120 star, I just wanted to do LBLJ for fun, and so I spent a whole bunch of hours that I could have been using to learn the game, learning LBLJ, but I don't regret it because I got LBLJ and I had a good time.
There
So
you go.
it depends on your goals. It depends on your aim. It obviously wasn't the best thing to do for getting good at speedrunning the game, but it was fun. So
Definitely doesn't hurt, but it can just be boring.
It definitely does hurt because I could have learned 3 levels in that time, and I just learned LBLJ.
That's true.
But it's fun though.
Mhm.
So you want to do whatever's fun.
You got to follow your heart, man. Your heart never lies.
Mm-hmm.
If I've learned anything.
All right. Do you guys see any questions?
Any
I
more
guess
questions,
we could
chat?
take we would take a few more questions, and that'd be.
Oh, I have a cool idea for you guys.
Hit me with it.
Talk to me, baby.
Make a Two Dads podcast Discord so that when it comes to the Q&A time, you spam the link in the chat. Everybody can go in there and post their questions.
That's exactly what we said right before
they won't go up off the chat.
That's exactly what we started talking about right before we started streaming. Yeah, we talked about making a Discord.
Type 1 if you would join the Two Dads 1 Cup Discord.
Right. I think it's a really good idea.
2.5 dads.
Okay, definitely for next week we will definitely have a Discord set up so that we'll have a good place for questions, and it'll be a little more organized because we're just starting, we're getting into this podcast world, but yeah, we're making moves. I know people want.
I shouldn't have said that. All the questions are gone now.
No, you got
people also want an MP3 version so that you listen to it on iTunes or SoundCloud. Apparently, people also do that, and we'll definitely be moving these episodes to that. But it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I definitely already know someone who would definitely 100% get this on their iTunes or whatever.
Ooh, what's their name? Do they have a beard?
Their name is Star Everlasting.
Oh, Star! I know Star, of course.
Dude, Star is great. I can't believe Star's your sister, right?
She listens to podcasts constantly, and she was like, "If Simply and Cheese have a podcast, I will listen to it all the time."
That's pretty cool. I love podcasts as well.
She doesn't want to open up the VOD though, so if there's just an audio version, she'd like that.
Well, if you're in the car or something, you don't got time for that. You don't got data for that,
Yeah.
I do see one more question that's pretty interesting. Duchess asks, Do other runners motivate you to do better when you see them do good? Is there a competitive thing that motivates the top runners? What's that just there? What? Okay. Is there a good competitive thing that motivates the top runners?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Do other runners motivate you to do better when you see them do good? Yeah,
I think it's really cool, but it's kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a question that requires a simple answer, and yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, just especially if someone beats your time, that you think you can beat their time.
Yes.
That's just it's so good. It's such good motivation.
Right.
If you have someone who's your direct competition, I have that in Hagenator 100%. And also I have incredible motivation to keep speedrunning Banjo-Kazooie because I have really hard goal of beating Stivity Bobo's world record, which like I'm second place. I'm the closest to doing that, and I'm still so far, but it's like it's there. And then at the same time, Hagenator was. You guys don't even understand. Yesterday was so unbelievable. He streamed for 15 hours. He had 4 runs that were on pace to beat me, like going into the last level, and he
Was
lost
it
one of
like
them by 1
literally,
frame.
like literally the grunty fight? Like he
It
lost
was-
all of them in the grunty fight?
Look at this. Okay, I'm getting the clip. It's so funny. We got to show this.
I just posted in chat, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe I can put it on. Can you screen share with me instead of having my face cam, and then I can put my screen?
Sure.
Give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Okay, clips.
Anything's possible.
This is the most ridiculous. Top 24 hours. Okay. Oh God, look at this.
Has that ever happened to you?
It's because he streamed for 15 hours. Okay, here it is. Pardon? Have I ever died on Grunty Fight on a PB pace run?
In that kind of scenario where it's like last second. Is that where you would die? Like, is that a pretty common death?
I don't think I've ever died on the Ginginator personally. But okay, I have it full screen now on my monitor. Let me see if I can turn on screen share. Screen 2. Okay, share. Do you guys see that?
All right,
Yes.
just center it more. Center the actual video more. Actually, you know what?
It's full screen.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay. So here's it won't have sound, but
We can imagine the
you
sound.
get the idea. Here, look at this. So my PB is 2:05:51. Like stuff like this is so fun about speedrunning. Like the most pumped up stuff. I was like, look, like I'm watching this live, so it's just the most intense feeling. I'm like, he's gonna beat my time. I'm gonna move down to 3rd place. This was yesterday, and he's getting hit. He's getting it bopped. His camera's all terrible. He's getting scuffed.
Can't see anything.
He can't. He's got 2 health. He misses all these egg shots.
His face.
2:05:48, 2:05:49, 2:05:50, and that's my PB.
No,
Like that's how
man.
close it was. Like it's insane.
Wait,
Rip.
so if he got that last egg shot, the run would have been done. He would have finished.
He would have bopped me. I would be second place right now.
Oh my
talking to you guys.
lord,
Right now,
that's
I'd be
crazy.
second place. And it wasn't. He shot the last egg. It did the animation, and the egg didn't come out before he got hit by the fireball. It was frames away from me being second place.
That's
So
crazy.
that kind of thing, it's so exciting. That's why speedrunning is so cool.
That's
That's why you
awesome.
should get into speedrunning. Because
should.
like, oh man, and then he PB'd later, like 7 hours later, he PB'd.
Wow.
He didn't beat me though.
Dude, he persisted. That's the lesson right there. You just got to keep going.
He's really
Dust off the shoulder, dude. If you can get a run, you know you can do it again. That's one lesson that I think is important.
All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I think we're good to go.
Dickhiskhan, it's
Thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure having you on the Two Dads podcast, Two Dads, One Show.
Yep, it's been a pleasure being here.
I hope
You've offered
everyone
us some incredible insight into the world of speedrunning.
Yeah,
and Banjo Kazooie, of course.
yes.
Of course. Wish we could have talked about Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong. Maybe that's
Yeah.
for another time.
Do you mind if
Right.
I plug my shiz?
Plug it, dude. Plug me up right now.
All right, I stream Banjo Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie 100% speedruns on twitch.tv/Dickhiskhan, spelt just like it is below me right now. Twitter, Dickhiskhan. I have a Discord, dixcord.gg/Dixcord. That's it. That's the plugs. That's all.
Thank you for the plug.
Thank you for the time. You're welcome for the plug.
All right. Yeah, I hope chat learned a lot of stuff. And,
I hope you all learned a lot today.
I hope you learned a lot today on today's class. Hope you guys took a lot of notes. You guys got to study for the test coming up next week.
Next Monday.
Next Monday is an exam. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And
Always a pleasure.
Do we have any insights for the next
Thank
show?
you.
Next week we'll have Mr. Llama SC, Diablo 2 speedrunner extraordinaire. So be looking forward to that. And we'll get the Discord going. That'll be announced on either Cheese or my Twitter Discord. So you guys should hear about that if you're in that realm.
Right. Also, we're gonna be starting up the Two Dads podcast Discord itself. So we'll keep you guys posted on that as well. All right. Well,
Yay.
thank you everyone for joining us, and
I hope you had.
we love you, Ting.
Love you.
Love ya.
Bye.
Love you
Have a good
guys.
day.
Love you.
Have a good
Big
week. It's
love.
Monday. Gotta start
Monday.
strong.
Happy Family Day if you're Canadian.
Canadian.
Yay.
What is
Hey.
it? Canadian Family Day or?
It's a holiday today. It's called Family Day.
Oh wow,
That's so Canada.
That's so Canada.
Yeah. I'm spending it with my streamer family, Simply, and my two dads, my family.
Happy Family Day.
All right. See y'all later. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.